Good Wednesday morning, friends, or afternoon, or evening, or whenever you happen to be joining. For those that I may not know, I'm Reverend Jennifer Finley, our Momentum and Discipleship Pastor here at First United Methodist Church, and this is our weekly time on Wednesday morning to take a deep breath, to pause together, and to wonder where God is showing up. And if you give me just a second, I'm actually going to change my view. Not that you need to see my messy shelves, but the sun just decided to come out, which is beautiful after some time not having the sun. But it was creating a little bit of a glare for us. So I thought I would, there, that's better. This is our midweek time to take a deep breath, to pause together, to wonder where God is showing up in our midst. And as I was thinking about that question for me, how is God being made real to me? Where is God showing up? How am I sensing God moving and stirring? I realized that God showed up for me in the snow. Those of you who may not be local to Kirksville may not know that out this window with beautiful sunlight at the moment is about 10 inches of snow. And it snowed all day yesterday and the night before. And God met me in that snow. Now, when I say that, know that it might not be exactly in the way you expect, because it wasn't exactly in the way I expected. As I was thinking about how God met me in the last 24 hours or so, I get up early in the mornings. That tends to be what I do. And so as I got up early yesterday morning, I looked out my window and it was still dark-ish outside, and I turned off my lights inside and I could see the beautiful snow. And it was gorgeous. And because it was early morning, plows hadn't been out a whole lot yet, it was peaceful and beautiful. And I thought, okay, this feels like the calm in the storm. And I think I may even posted something on Facebook about that, this calm in the storm, and it was beautiful. And that was true. And God met me in that moment. But what was also true was that as the day went on, like some of you, I got out and shoveled. I live on a corner lot, and I rent where I live, but I'm responsible for yard maintenance and sidewalk maintenance, and I want to be a good neighbor. And I also know my own limitations and know that I'm not capable of shoveling 10 inches of snow all at once. So I got out early in the morning, about 7 o'clock, and I shoveled my front walkway. And then I got out and I shoveled around my car and in the alleyway behind my car. That's how I get in and out. And then I went about the rest of my day enjoying the snow day. And then later in the afternoon, sometime around lunch, I got out again. And that time, I'll admit, it wasn't as much fun. Didn't really enjoy it that much. And at some point, I just got annoyed a little bit. The snow was still beautiful. It was still falling. But goodness, I was tired and my arms hurt a little bit and my muscles were sore, and it didn't seem as beautiful. God also met me in that moment. And then I got out about 4 o'clock to do the final shoveling of the day, to shovel around the car so I could get out this morning, to do a final shovel before the overnight happened on my front walkway. So if anybody who was walking would at least be walking on mostly shoveled walkway. I walked, I don't live very far from our campus ministry house, so I walked over there to help our intern who lives there do some shoveling. And this was about 4 o'clock. And about that point, the wind picked up. And it went from gently falling snow, or at least that's what it looked like, to snow that sort of felt like ice pellets. And I wasn't out very long. But suddenly, the snow didn't feel like fun anymore. And I was tired. And God met me in the reality that both of those things were true at the same time. It was still true that sense I'd had in the morning, that this was beautiful snow and that there's some peace in it. That was true and remained true in the afternoon. And also The idea that I was frustrated and tired and sore and worried about how the rest of the week was going to go, that was also true. Both of those things can be true at the same time. And that's where God met me, because it was a reminder that multiple things can be true at the same time. I often say that to myself and others, but sometimes it takes a reminder like the snow for God to meet me in that, to remind me that yes, multiple things can be true at the same time. And that got me to thinking about how that shows up in our lives in other ways, when it's not something like snow. For example, on Christmas Eve here at church, we had a beautiful Sunday morning service. And then there was a pause in the day, and then in the evening we had beautiful candlelight services. And in between that, we as clergy got notification of a death. And then about an hour later, we also got a notification about a much awaited birth that had happened. The sorrow of death and the joy of birth within just a short period of time. Both of those things were true. And holding them together was actually a beautiful joy. I've heard some people call that brutiful. I think there's a Christian writer that has coined the term brutiful to describe those senses when something is both brutal and beautiful at the same time. Maybe that's a little bit like our snow. Brutal. And it's okay for us to be frustrated and recognize the hardships it brings. And we can also recognize that it's beautiful at the same time. God met me in that reminder that life, lots of life, is the both and. That it is both beautiful, that is true, and also at the same time, that doesn't negate acknowledging the hard things. Christmas Eve reminded me of that birth and death happen at the same time, and those true things, the joy and the sorrow of that, can be true at the exact same time. I wonder for you, maybe it's the snow, but I wonder what other life things for you have reminded you of that both and. For I think we all know that sense, that both and sense of this is true and also this is true. It can be both beautiful and hard, and one doesn't have to negate the other. I think sometimes in our culture, especially with social media, we think that something has to be one thing or the other. It has to fit in the category of this is beautiful and life-giving, or this is really hard. Often I think God meets us in the both and of that. So I thought I would share a poem I ran across by one of my favorite writers and poets, Joyce Roop. This is a book called My Soul Feels Lean, Poems of Loss and Restoration. The first half is about poems of loss, but then there's a second half about poems of restoration that often resist any neat and tidy ways of talking. I think that's why I love it. This one is called The Ice Storm, but I think we can imagine, maybe replace the ice images with the snow images that we have had recently. Soft moisture slides through the frozen air, paralyzed before it reaches the ground. The trees feign indifference while their lengthy boughs accept the stony silence. Branches soon grow heavy and gasp with regret, straining with the weight of innocent hospitality. The icy pellets terrorize the vulnerable boughs, the weight of their arrival bending the strong branches until they bow humbly to earth. A rabbit climbs from a safe burrow, 4 paws on the glazed lawn, sniffs at the falling particles, then slides back into the darkness, wisely choosing the softness of home. I, too, observe the icy raindrops as they wrap themselves around each piece of sidewalk, lamppost, telephone wire, and tree, musing to myself, am I a prisoner of winter or a recipient of transparent beauty? Am I a prisoner of winter or a recipient of transparent beauty? What if the answer to that is both? I think that's what this poem is getting at, is that it is okay to acknowledge that both of those things are true, both in the very tangible snowstorms out there and in the snowstorms of our lives. It is good and okay to find and acknowledge the ways in which there is beauty and the ways in which they are hard. So as always, if you need someone in your life to join you in acknowledging that reality, our doors are always open here at the church. Our office is open this morning. If you happen to be coming by, know that our driveway has been cleared. Our sidewalks are still a little snowy and icy, but we are here. But as always, feel free to send us a message or an email or stop by. For we know that even in the ice and snow, we are not alone. And you are not alone in being in the midst of both the beautiful and the hard. Go in peace, my friends.